This isn't a movie set, miss. The conductor, Marcus Thorne, sneered, tearing her private sleeper car ticket in two. Sergeant Anya Petrova stood motionless, her Sentinel's uniform radiating solemn dignity under the station's grand lights, each medal a testament to fallen heroes. Passengers stared, their whispers and phone cameras turning her into a spectacle. To Thorne, she was a fraud in a costume trying to scam a luxury ride. But one phone call would soon bring this railway to a screeching halt, exposing a truth he never imagined. Before I tell you exactly what happened next, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. Now let's get into it. The air in Chicago's Union Station was thick with the scent of diesel and hurried goodbyes. Amidst the chaos, Sergeant Anya Petrova was an island of perfect calm. Her deep blue ceremonial jacket, adorned with gleaming silver buttons, was immaculate. Her white gloves were pristine, her posture as unyielding as the marble pillars that soared toward the station's vaulted ceiling. At 30, she carried the profound gravity of her post, a sentinel at the tomb of the unknown soldier. This uniform wasn't for show. It was a sacred shroud of duty she wore on behalf of a nation. Today, she was traveling to Arlington for a special ceremony, her orders including a private sleeper car to ensure she and the uniform arrived in perfect condition. She presented her military ID and ticket confirmation at the first-class check-in. The agent, a woman named Brenda with a strained smile, froze. Her eyes darted from Anya's formal cover to the expensive ticket, a flicker of disbelief in her gaze. "One moment, please," she stammered, grabbing her radio. "Marcus, I need you at the sleeper car gate." "Yes, now." Within minutes, Marcus Thorne arrived, his conductor's uniform stretched tight over his self-important frame. He eyed Anya with open disdain. "Is there a problem?" Anya asked, her voice even and disciplined. "I'll say," Thorne retorted, snatching the ticket from the counter. "Where did you get this? These sleeper cars are over $800. My commanding officer arranged the booking. My travel orders are right there," Anya replied, indicating the official documents. Thorne barely glanced at them. "The Army doesn't just hand out luxury train tickets for dress-up parties. We have protocols to prevent fraud." He gestured vaguely to two railway police officers standing nearby. "We need to verify that this outfit is even real." One of the officers, a younger man, gave Anya a subtle, respectful nod. The other looked bored. Anya felt the familiar sting of being misunderstood, of her sacred duty being reduced to a costume. She could have argued, could have escalated the situation, but a public scene would dishonor everything the uniform stood for. Her mission was to represent the fallen with quiet dignity, not to win a shouting match on a train platform. For security reasons, Thorne announced with a smirk of finality, "We can't validate this ticket. I'm reassigning you. You can take a seat in coach or wait for the next train." He clearly expected her to refuse. Anya held his gaze. A battle of wills unfolded in the tense silence. She thought of the soldiers she guarded, men who had faced true adversity without complaint. This was nothing. "As you wish," she said, her voice betraying no emotion. "I will not cause a delay." Thorne's victory was petty but absolute. He printed a new ticket with theatrical flair and slapped it onto the counter. "Seat 28B. Try not to bother the other passengers with your pageantry." As Anya took the ticket and turned away, the younger officer met her eyes and quietly mouthed, "I'm sorry." Anya gave a slight, almost imperceptible nod. Some battles were not meant to be fought on a train platform. Boarding the coach car was an exercise in constrained movement. The narrow aisle was a world away from the spacious corridor of the sleeper car she was meant to be in. Passengers stared, their gazes a mixture of curiosity, pity, and suspicion as she carefully maneuvered her way to the back, her ceremonial cover tucked under her arm. The scent of stale coffee and disinfectant hung in the air. She finally found row 28, a cramped space next to a window where an older man with a kind, weathered face was reading a book. He looked up as she approached, his eyes widening in recognition. "Well, I'll be," he said, his voice a low, friendly rumble as he straightened up. "A Sentinel, on my train." "Good afternoon, sir," Anya said politely, carefully stowing her cover in the overhead bin before easing into the middle seat. "Walter Jenkins," the man said, extending a sturdy hand. "Walt, Army Corps of Engineers, retired. Spent 30 years building bridges they told me couldn't be built." Anya shook his hand. "Sergeant Anya Petrova, 3rd Infantry Regiment." Walt's grin was genuine. "I recognized that uniform from a mile away. Spent some time at Arlington myself back in '82. Coldest winter I ever felt. You Sentinels never even shivered. Absolute discipline." He leaned in a little, his voice dropping. "I saw what that stuffed shirt conductor did to you back there at the gate. It was a disgrace. A damn disgrace." Anya appreciated his solidarity. "Just a misunderstanding, I'm sure," she said, defaulting to a diplomatic response. "Bull," Walt countered firmly, his eyes flashing with indignation. "That wasn't a misunderstanding. It was disrespect, plain and simple. A man like that wouldn't know honor if it bit him on the nose. You should report him the second we get to D.C. "There are bigger things to worry about, Walt," Anya replied, a small, weary smile touching her lips. He chuckled, a warm, rolling sound. "Maybe you're right. Still, it grinds my gears. Used to be that uniform meant something to everyone, not just those of us who wore one." As the train pulled out of the city, its rhythmic clatter a steady beat against the tracks, they fell into an easy conversation. Walt shared stories of his time in service, of projects in far-flung corners of the world, and Anya listened with genuine interest. He spoke with the quiet pride of a man who had spent his life in service, a language she understood perfectly. Other passengers nearby began to listen in, drawn by the old veteran's lively tales and the quiet dignity of the young soldier he so clearly admired. The tension from the confrontation at the gates slowly began to fade, replaced by the gentle motion of the train and the comfort of a shared bond. The Illinois plains blurred into a tapestry of green and gold outside the window, a peaceful backdrop to a journey that was about to become anything but. Hours later, as the train rattled through the rolling hills of Ohio, the calm was shattered. A sudden commotion erupted from the dining car a few carriages ahead. A clatter of falling silverware, a woman's sharp scream, and then a frantic cry from a crew member that cut through the murmur of the train. "Is there a doctor on board? We need help. Somebody please help." Anya's training, honed by countless hours of drills and simulations, took over instantly. She was on her feet before she had even fully processed the thought. "Excuse me, Walt," she said, her voice calm and steady. The veteran immediately moved his legs, his eyes wide with concern. Anya moved down the aisle with a swift, purposeful grace that belied the restrictive cut of her ceremonial jacket. Passengers leaned out of their seats to see, their faces a mixture of alarm and morbid curiosity. When she reached the dining car, she found a scene of controlled chaos. A middle-aged man was lying motionless on the floor between tables, his face pale and slack. A woman, presumably his wife, knelt beside him, sobbing hysterically, while a young train attendant looked on, frozen in panic. "I'm trained in emergency combat life support," Anya announced, her voice cutting through the noise with quiet authority. It wasn't a question. "Let me through." The attendant looked up, relief washing over her face. "Yes, please. He just collapsed." Anya knelt beside the man, her gloved fingers immediately going to his neck to find a carotid pulse. Nothing. She pressed her ear to his chest. "No breath. He has no pulse," she stated clearly, her eyes meeting the attendant's. "He's in cardiac arrest. Call the conductor and tell him to divert to the nearest station with a hospital. We have a medical emergency." Without waiting for a response, she positioned her hands on a man's chest and began CPR. The precise, rhythmic compressions were a familiar drill. 1, 2, 3, 4. She counted under her breath, her focus absolute. The cabin fell silent. The only sounds now the click-clack of the train on the tracks and the steady cadence of her compressions. The passengers who had earlier dismissed her as a curiosity watched in stunned silence as the woman in the costume worked with the lethal efficiency of a seasoned professional. The attendant returned with the train's automated external defibrillator, AED. Anya didn't miss a beat. She sliced open the man's shirt and expertly applied the pads to his chest, continuing compressions until the machine was ready. The AED's robotic voice instructed everyone to stand clear. Clear, Anya commanded, her voice ringing with authority. She pressed the button, and the man's body jolted. She immediately resumed CPR. After another grueling cycle, she checked for a pulse again. A flicker. "I've got a pulse," she announced, relief coloring her tone for the first time. "It's weak, but it's there." Just then, the captain's voice came over the intercom, announcing an emergency stop in Pittsburgh. As the train screeched to a halt, paramedics rushed on board. Anya gave them a concise, professional report. Patient is a male, approximately 55. Witness cardiac arrest. Administered 2 minutes of CPR followed by 1 shock from the AED. Pulse returned but remains thready. The lead paramedic looked at her, then at the uniform, his expression one of pure admiration. "Textbook execution," he said. "You just saved this man's life." The man's wife grabbed Anya's hand, tears of gratitude streaming down her face. "Thank you," she whispered. "Oh God, thank you." Standing on a cold, windswept platform at the Pittsburgh station, Anya watched as the ambulance carrying Richard Sullivan sped away. The delay meant she would be late for her briefing at Arlington. Protocol was protocol. She found a quiet corner and dialed her commanding officer, Colonel Eva Rostova. Rostova. The voice on the other end was crisp and no nonsense. "Sergeant Petrova reporting, ma'am. I'm experiencing a travel delay." "I can see that, Sergeant," Colonel Rostova replied, her tone sharp. "The Pentagon's tracker shows your train is sitting stationary in Pittsburgh. You were due in D.C. an hour ago. Report. There was a medical emergency on board, Colonel. We made an unscheduled stop. I rendered aid. There was a brief pause. Were you directly involved?" "The passenger was in cardiac arrest. I administered CPR until paramedics arrived. He's stable now, ma'am." "Well done, Sergeant," Rostova said, a rare note of warmth in her voice. Then, her tone shifted back to business, sharp as glass. "But the manifest I have from the Army Travel Command says you were booked in a private sleeper car. That car is at the front of the train. The dining car is in the middle. How did you get there so fast?" Anya hesitated. "There was a seating issue at departure, ma'am." "Define seating issue," Rostova pressed, the silence on the line suddenly heavy. "Upon check-in at Union Station, the conductor questioned the validity of my uniform and my ticket, ma'am. He expressed concern that the Army would not authorize premium travel accommodations." Rostova's voice dropped, becoming dangerously quiet. "Are you telling me you were denied your assigned seat, Sergeant?" "Yes, Colonel. He deemed my ticket a security risk and reassigned me to a seat in the coach car." "And you accepted this?" The disapproval was unmistakable. "I felt it would be inappropriate to create a public confrontation while in uniform, ma'am. The dignity of the tomb comes first." Another long, tense silence followed. "Your restraint is commendable, Sergeant," Colonel Rostova said finally, her voice now cold and precise. "But this is not about your personal dignity. It is about respect for the United States Army and the tomb you guard. This is unacceptable." She took a breath. "Give me the conductor's name and the train line." Hours later, in a sterile boardroom in Philadelphia, Marcus Thorne was sweating under the fluorescent lights. He'd been yanked from his route and summoned to an emergency meeting. Across the table sat his regional manager, 2 stone-faced officials from the Federal Railroad Administration, and a woman in a decorated Army service uniform who radiated an authority that chilled him to the bone. Colonel Eva Rostova. "Mr. Thorne," the regional manager began, his voice trembling slightly, "we are here to discuss an incident involving Sergeant Anya Petrova." On a large screen, the security footage from Union Station began to play. The whole humiliating exchange was there in high definition. His sneering, his dismissal of her documents, the theatrical tearing of the ticket. Thorne sank lower in his chair. "Because of your security concerns," Colonel Rostova said, her voice like ice, "a highly decorated soldier was publicly humiliated. And because she was in that coach car, she was able to save a man's life. Your incompetence and bigotry put her in a position to be a hero. But make no mistake, you will not be rewarded for it. Your actions are a disgrace to your company and an insult to every person who serves this country. The FRA official spoke next. Effective immediately, you are terminated. Furthermore, your entire rail line is being placed under a full federal compliance audit. Operations will be suspended. It seems we need to reevaluate whether your company understands the meaning of federal anti-discrimination laws. Thorne's face went white. He hadn't just lost his job. He had brought a federal giant crashing down on his entire company. This journey, which began with an act of disrespect, ended as a powerful testament to the true meaning of service. The uniform wasn't a costume, but a symbol of a promise to stand for those who fell and, when called upon, to protect those who still stand. Anya's quiet dignity in the face of insult and her swift courage in the face of crisis proved that honor isn't found in a first-class ticket, but in your actions when everything is on the line. Have you ever been completely misjudged based on your appearance or your job? What would you have done if you were a passenger who saw Anya being treated that way at the station? Do you think that in our fast-paced world, we sometimes forget to give the proper respect to the silent guardians who dedicate their lives to service? We want to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If this story about honor and redemption resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about everyday heroes. Share this with someone who believes that integrity and courage will always prevail in the end. We read every single comment and value your voice in our community. More stories about underestimated heroes are waiting for you right on your screen. Click to watch those next. And we'll see you tomorrow with a brand new story about a librarian who uncovered a town's oldest, darkest secret.